It's time to talk taxes.
New friends, new opportunities, new partners. EG Tax.
It's Ask the Tax Lady with Esther Gulius and EG Tax on News Radio 930 WBEN. To reach Esther now, call 803-0930. Toll free at 1-800-616-9236. And cell calls are free at star 930. And now, live from the WBEN studios, it's Esther Gulius.
Hey, my darlings, it's Esther Gulius. It's the tax lady, and we're talking taxes and anything else that you want to talk about. If it has a dollar sign attached, we want to talk about it. So if you would like to come and be part of our show, we would love you to do that. Everybody loves to hear what you have to say. Really don't care what we have to say. 803-0930, 803-0930, star 930 on a cell phone. And I have, of course, my compadres here, Tiffany Fabian. Hey, Tiffany.
Hey there, Esther.
And Christopher Fabian.
Hello.
Hello,
Esther.
Christopher. And we're going to talk taxes, and specifically today, we thought we would talk about capital assets and what a capital asset is, which many people just think is stocks and bonds, but isn't necessarily, and why it's so important, and what a holding period is, and what happens if you inherit it, and what if you get it as a gift, and et cetera, et cetera. And we want to make you smarter, so at tax time and during the year when you're making decisions, you know what the heck to do, right?
That's right. That's right. There's nothing like knowledge is power. I was helping a taxpayer the other day, and she was like maybe 30, and she got a letter in the mail because she didn't include all of her wages because part of her wages was for school reimbursement, and she didn't think she had to. And then I said, well, I have to do an amendment because we have to amend the state. Why does it increase my state too? She said, why do I have to pay to New York State? And so there's really a loop, and you have to understand the whole process.
Right, that's true. Yeah. And that's part of what we want to do is we want everybody to understand so that you're smarter. And look at, we all have 7 weeks before the jig is up for 2015. And so we're looking at the increase in Obamacare, and I think the financial guys were talking about Health Republic crashing. And, you know, that's part of what EG Tax will do. If you need help with your health insurance, we have our own navigator that will help you to find health insurance if you're a victim of Health Republic, which was supposed to be kind of an offshoot of a not-for-profit set up by the federal government. Right, Chris? Wasn't it something like that?
Something, yeah, to help keep the costs down.
Right, because this wasn't like just a normal insurance company. This was like what they said the federal government wanted to fund to do the health insurance, and it went bankrupt in the first year. And those people, but it was cheap. I would tell you, it was cheap.
What were you going to say?
You know, I was researching this, and actually there's a lot of other co-ops that are failing with the healthcare system. So they say by January 1st, 850,000 people that signed up for health insurance through the federal exchange or their state exchanges are losing their health insurance because these other companies are going under also. So
and so if you're dealing with a Blue Cross Blue Shield, Fidelis, the bigger insurance companies, they cost more, but they at least were able to fund properly the health insurance. So, again, if you need help with that, 803-0930, 803-0930, star 930 yourself on a cell phone. All right, let's talk about, I know we got calls coming in. What's a capital asset? Why should anybody care about differentiating about what a capital asset is? Hello, Christopher.
Sorry. Well, if they want to pay more and the government's not going to say, please don't pay us more, they're going to take your money. You know.
But what is a capital asset?
So a capital asset is what they do is they negatively describe what a capital asset is. It is not inventory, because inventory on your business would go on your Schedule C, right?
Right.
Correct.
And it's not accounts receivable, because that would go on your Schedule C, right?
Correct.
So, I mean, those are things, but pretty much everything else, and there, I guess, government publications and royalties and things that are not capital assets, but pretty much everything you have is a capital asset aside from the and depreciable assets. That's not a capital asset. So your wedding ring is a capital asset, your clothing is a capital asset, your house is a capital asset, your personal car is a capital asset. Your shoes are a capital asset. And so if you sell and then a capital asset is divided into two types: investment capital asset and personal capital assets. Now, if you sell your capital asset that's personal at a gain, is the gain taxable?
Yes.
Yes. Is the loss deductible?
No.
No. So if I sell my wedding ring at a gain, I got to pay taxes on it.
Correct.
If I sell my personal car at a gain, I got to pay taxes on it. However, if I sell it at a loss, I don't get to take the loss.
Right.
However, if it's investment, if I'm in the business of buying, let's say, what would you call it? Like I buy old couches. I don't know. I buy couches and I keep
Antique jewelry.
Yeah, but then that's a collectible.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
That's another category. So let's say I buy land, and I sell it. That's a capital asset. The gain is taxable. Because it's investment capital assets, if I sell it, the loss is deductible.
Right.
So you have to differentiate between investment and personal.
You did a really good job breaking that down.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I like how you started with it is not inventory. It is not accounts receivable.
That's what it's not, because
Right.
it goes on different forms. It goes
Right.
on a 4797, goes on a Schedule C. All right. Now, why do I care? Why in the world would I care if something's a capital asset?
Because there's different tax rates, and so when you sell it, when you talk about that gain, there's different categories for a capital asset, and so that's why it's so important.
And is it wonderful if you're selling a capital asset? It's wonderful.
Because you have a great opportunity to
Well,
pay
and
less.
because it pays less, you pay less taxes.
Correct.
If you had wages, you pay at whatever your tax rate is,
Yeah.
but not if you have a capital asset
That's
and you
right.
sell it at a gain.
Long
If you
term.
have a capital asset and you sell it at a gain in your 15% bracket, what do you pay in taxes? What rate?
Zero.
Zero. Zero. Zippo, Nadia, nothing. So your stocks and bonds and land and residences and cottages
couches.
and is all taxed at a lower rate.
Right. That's pretty cool.
And so that's really, really cool if it's a long-term capital asset.
Right.
So then we come to holding period.
Correct.
Right?
More
So
than a
if
year.
you don't hold it long enough, then it's a short-term. And if it's a short-term capital asset, you pay at
Your
regular
current
tax
regular
rates.
Right.
But if it's long-term, more than a year, it gets special preferential tax
Special treatment in
Right.
tax world is a good thing.
Hallelujah. All right, so we thought we'd talk about that. We're going to talk about basis in a minute, but in the meantime, we are going to take a short break. We're going to join you on the other side with Jim and Chris and everybody else calling in. 8030930, 8030930, star 930 on the cell phone. Take a short break. See you on the other side. I like this kind of music.
Any guesses?
Heck no. All right, who is it?
Hootie and the Blowfish?
Bruce Springsteen, Radio Nowhere.
Oh, well, that was close, Pip. Hootie and the Blowfish.
Could you see where I was going?
Bruce Springsteen. Well, anyway. I'm Esther Gully. We know a lot about taxes, but we are really flunking the music world. So when getting back to the capital gains rate, so if you're in the 15% bracket or less, which really probably includes most people listening today, you're going to pay 0% on long-term capital gains. If you move to the next bracket, then it's 15%, and if you go to the top bracket, 38.6, you're going to pay 20%, and probably Chris was saying with the excise tax of 3.8% too. Yeah. So, but I'll tell you, capital gains are a deal.
Yeah, I heard you on the phone yesterday with a client talking about, well, if you sell it, you're still going to be in the 15% tax bracket, so you're going to pay zero on that sale. So I don't remember who it was.
She didn't want to cash the check. I said, cash the check. Cash the check.
I heard you say that a
number
of times,
Cash the check. The whole thing is on the state of New York, though. Do you get a benefit for capital assets?
No, not at all.
Zippo, none. Zunca, none. Zippo. So on the state of New York, your capital assets are taxed just like ordinary income. Okay, let's talk to Jim in Buffalo. Hey, Mr. Jim, how are you? Hello, Jim. James, Buffalo, James. Hello. Wow.
Good afternoon. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I thought maybe we put the phone down. Hi, Jim. How can we help you?
So let me get right to it. So I'm a first-time homeowner, bought a home this year.
Yep.
And I've heard conflicting information about whether or not you can claim your points that you paid on your mortgage on your taxes.
Okay.
And I'd just like to know if that is in fact possible, and if it is, how would I go about doing that? And
Okay.
I'll take your answer off the air. Thank you so much for doing this show.
You're
Isn't he
welcome.
so
Thanks,
sweetie-
Jim.
sweetie pie?
And now, is this your personal
already-
He
residence?
hung up.
I think it is his personal residence. And so, yes, the good news is you can take points on the first time on the purchase of a new house. Now, if you use those points and you refinance, you have to amortize that over the life. But if it's a brand new first-time purchase, not a refinance, you can take those points. It was go on your Schedule A under the section of interest.
But you have to itemize.
Right.
Right?
You have to itemize.
So Jim and his wife, I'm assuming it was a married guy, they'd have to have more than the standard deduction in order to get any benefit for that. And the only place points are found is where?
HUD 1.
On HUD 1.
HUD 1.
Sometimes they put it
on the
1098.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do, but
Right.
many times they don't. So you have to kind of peel off your HUD 1 and look on page 2
Yeah.
at the top, and it says how much your points are. Now, MIP? How about MIP?
MIP is, well,
Maybe.
maybe.
Extender.
All right, if that's an extender. So if the Congress, if the House and Senate votes to extend the extenders, which everybody thinks they will because they have caved in for so many years in a row, the MIP would also be deductible, mortgage insurance premium.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. Which
Okay.
is a really nice thing. And now if you make too much money, that's something that phases out. So
Right.
you want to make sure you do the formula that goes with it.
Right. I'm Esther Golias, the tax lady, 8030930, 8030930, star 930 on his cell phone, and only Chris knows what the toll-free number is. What is the toll-free number?
1-800-616-WBEN.
All right, let's go back to the phones, and we'll talk to Chris from Orchard Park. Hey, Chris, how can we help you?
Good, Esther. First, I thought you were putting me on the dime there for the toll-free
Yeah,
number.
come
for
on.
A second.
Oh, that's right. Your name is Chris, too. We know you know, Chris.
616.
I just use the star 930. Quick question on the health insurance, Esther. I think it was
Yeah.
about 2 weeks ago, maybe three. Time flies. You had somebody on there as a new Obama state plan or something that, depending on your income, might even be free of charge. I was wondering what the limit on that was for a family of four as far as income.
Okay, so what you're saying is maybe you'll come under the Medicaid portion. And
Right.
so if you are actually at poverty level, which you'd be surprised, that sounds like such a terrible thing, but actually for a family of four, it's like $40-some thousand,
Right,
isn't it?
right.
So I might be closer. I might have to call your office to get an exact.
Well,
number
actually, if
for
you go to our website.
You can go to our website at egtax.com, and then it says We Know Healthcare. Click on that, and there's actually the form that comes up from the New York State of Health.
Oh, so I could do that. Okay,
You
that
can,
was the first.
but here's the thing: you with a family of four, you'd probably get Medicaid if you're around 42,000. As you go past that, you're going to get a government subsidy of quite a bit of money until you get closer to like $80,000 or $90,000.
Right,
We're
right. Yep.
away from there. I think we're a little above it. And let me tell you, I've had the Obamacare when it first came out for a few months, and it's the most worthless thing they ever came up with. You're basically paying for a catastrophic. You're paying for a Cadillac HMO, and you're getting catastrophic.
Okay, it all depends. So if you're on Medicaid,
Yeah, we can't get Medicaid. I know that for a fact. We can
okay,
do the child health.
then I'm going to tell you, Chris, and this is what I'd like everybody. There's 4 levels of Obamacare. There's the bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. All right.
Yeah.
Many times it's better to pay a little bit more in the monthly premium and drop the the large deductible and the large out of pocket, because you'll find out, especially if you have a family that has ongoing medical problems, maybe somebody has a chronic problem, it may be better for you to do the platinum plan or the new silver plan.
Or that because silver, but that's another question. The other thing is, I have recently become where I'm getting to the cusp of being eligible for health insurance, and I did check in that with my HR people this week. And she had like 4 plans you could choose from, and the premiums vary.
Right.
And one of them she called the Cadillac plan.
Right.
Is there a tax penalty if you have what they consider a Cadillac plan?
Okay, if it's an employer-provided plan and it's considered a Cadillac plan, there is an excise tax that's going to be imposed starting, I think, in 2017, if I'm not correct. And I think it's 30% of the excess over what should have been allowed. Now, Auntie Esther does not have a crystal ball, but I will tell you, I've been in this game a long time, and if they let the Cadillac tax go into effect, I would be completely surprised. Now, we're in 2015. We have 2 years before it goes into effect, and you watch the politicians. Their wills of iron turn into jelly as it gets closer to them imposing something that would be against the populace.
Okay.
So there is something on the books. Do I really think it's going to happen?
And the Cadillac tax is a 40% excise tax on the health insurance plans that employers provide. Now, she could have called it a Cadillac plan, but
Maybe
what
she
do
meant-
you
maybe she
work?
meant
Where do you work, Chris? There's very
I don't want to get into
Okay.
that.
Don't want to talk about
yeah,
it.
but anyways, there's very is it a
Very
government?
few companies.
Is it a government municipality?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. It is paid on each dollar spent on a plan over specified annual maximums, currently $10,200 for an individual and $27,500. So it has to be a really expensive
Great plan. But I'll tell you, Chris, we got 2 years before it's a problem. You watch. They're going to backpedal.
So, but I'd be safe to take this plan for 16 if I qualify. by the end of the
Hey,
year.
buddy, if I could get it, I would.
Well, here's
If
the
they
thing,
did,
and that's why
if
I'm
I
thinking,
could
because
sign up for a plan that did free, my girlfriend has something called for free. What do you call it? Plastic surgery.
liposuction?
Yeah, I mean, I just be in the plastic
did her
plastic
arms?
surgery the whole time.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, sign up.
But the
Sign
difference
up.
in premium is almost negligible. It's like $60. We get paid every 2 weeks. It's
Yeah.
$60 every pay period.
Yep.
But the
that's-
deductibles drop from 25
There you go.
to 10.25.
There you go.
So
And right now
why
there
wouldn't
is
we
no
pay the
tax, so go for it.
So go for it. I'm at least safe next year.
That's right.
Great, Esther.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Chris.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go to
Bye-bye.
your website, check the other thing out just to make sure before I sign up. But
There you go.
I think
Thank you,
Chris
sir.
has got
by a hair, so.
Yeah, a family of 4 is $32,252
To get
and 50
Medicaid.
cents to get Medicaid.
All right, and then it's 400%. It's 400% over poverty.
Yeah.
So that'd be 120,
Yeah.
right?
Well, this is
4
percent
times
of poverty
3 is
guideline.
120.
Family of 4 is 32,250.
Okay, but it's
to
400%
get a subsidy.
when you're doing the
to
subsidy,
get the
right?
subsidy, yes.
I'm Esther Gullius, the tax lady, 8030930, 8030930, star 930 on a cell phone. Love to hear what you have to say, whether you have been canceled from your health insurance, if you need information about Obamacare. And I will tell you the penalty this year on 2015 is 2% of your modified adjusted gross income. And next year it's 2.5%. And there are exceptions to penalty, and EG Tax is really adept at how to get you in and out of the proper kind of health insurance. And it's not an easy thing. I mean, there are 4 plans, and sometimes people choose the bronze plan because it's the cheapest, but it has high deductible expenses you have to pay, and a lot of out-of-pocket, and you might be better off to change and move up to a different kind of plan.
Right. I mean, we talked about there's the Medicaid and then there's the next step up, and I'm sorry I can't remember. Not bronze. There's
silver.
the new one
Catastrophe.
for people who are just over the Medicaid limit for single people that are $20 a month. And I know Esther's brain is thinking right now
Yeah.
too of what it's
I
called.
don't remember
but
what it's called,
I had
anyway.
a gentleman in yesterday, and he goes, well, I know I like just paying the penalty. It's cheaper. I said, but wait a minute. In 2016, it's 2.5% or $6.95 a person, whichever is greater. So you could pay $480 total for the year to get at least some type of health insurance, to paying a $6.95. So you would actually end up losing money because your income qualifies for this.
Right.
So, I mean, you got to look at all the options, because now the penalties are getting very outrageous, and you could end up costing yourself.
That's for sure.
So-
In other words, you're going to pay for something you aren't going to get covered for.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, let's go back to the phones. We'll talk to Dan in Grand Island. Hey, Mr. Dan, how can we help you?
Hi, Esther. How are you?
Good.
Good. I have a question about, I had a car I traded in August.
Okay.
I owed $1,500 on it. They gave me $7,000, so I used the $5,000 towards the down payment on the new car.
Okay.
You were talking about you'll be taxed on anything if you make a profit if you sell your ring or your car. Will I have to pay taxes on that $5,000 or $5,500, or how do they determine?
All right, let me ask you this, Dan. Was that car used for business?
No.
All right. So on a if it had been depreciated and the depreciable basis had gone down and you traded it in, you could have had to recapture depreciation. But on a car where you paid $10,000 and you sold it for $1,500, you actually lost money, and that loss is not deductible, and you don't have to pay taxes on it.
Sounds good. May I speak to someone off the air real quick?
Sure. You know what? If you don't mind, we have the news coming up in a couple minutes, and we'll put you on hold and talk to you during the news. Okay?
I don't. Okay, thanks.
All right, we're going to put you on hold. I'm Esther Gulius, the tax lady. 803-0930, 803-0930, star 930 on a cell phone, and we got Patty from Jamestown. Hey, Patty, how can we help you?
Yes, I had Health Republic all year.
Uh-huh.
And is there a tax penalty if I don't buy it for December, an insurance?
As long as you
had if you had it for more than 9 months, then there will not be any penalty.
Oh, good. So I can just not get it for
December? But you need it before March of next year.
Yeah, I got an appointment, on the 27th of November.
Okay.
With a person, so I can just forget this month.
Right. Now, the problem is, of course, if there's anything that happens to you, you're going to be not covered. So that's the dice you're rolling.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, dear.
Esther.
Wow,
okay.
so many
All
people
right.
are
I'm Esther Gulius, the tax lady. 803-0930, 803-0930, star 930 on the cell phone. We're talking taxes, year-end tax planning, health insurance, anything that affects you, your money, and your tax situation. Tiff, you were saying?
I said there's going to be so many people in Patty's shoes. I know Tim at the office has just been answering one call after another and helping one person after another with the Health Republic. It's just been a sad situation. And like Chris said, I think there's going to be more and more situations like this that are going to present with health insurance companies.
Well, obviously, Health Republic, like Chris was saying, was a co-op that the federal government was running.
Right.
And I think many of us knew that anything that the federal government ran wasn't so hot.
Right. And I got to say,
but it was a deal. I will tell you.
And another thing that I got to say, Dan, with the car, that's a common question. Okay.
That's right. I'm Esther Gulius, the tax lady. We're going to take a news break. We'll see you on the other side.
This is Hootie and the Blowfish.
I didn't. Did I say Hootie?
You did last time.
You did the last time.
Good job.
So this time, thank you, Hootie and the Blowfish. I'm Esther Gulius, and I can fish, but that's about it.
You can't Hootie?
I can Hootie, and I can fish. All right, we're talking about capital assets and why it's important for you to understand about capital assets, and because they're taxed differently. And the other thing is, when you sell your capital asset, then you have to determine your basis. Now, all the time that you had your capital asset, you're supposed to be keeping track of things that would adjust your basis. And just put it in simple terms, like let's say you had a piece of property that you bought, a piece of land, and you paid $25,000 for it. Then you put a house on it, and the house cost $100,000. Then the $100,000 increases the cost of the land to $125,000. Then you put a fence around it, and that was $5,000. Now it's up to $130,000. Then you put a garage on, and that was $10,000. Now it's $140,000. And so on and so forth. After all your improvements, that land that you might have bought for $25,000 might have a cost in it, an adjusted basis of $160,000. If you sell it for $170,000, you only have a $10,000 gain.
Yep. So it's really important to keep record.
Not 25 to 150, but actually 140 to 150. So the important thing is, as you have a capital asset, all the things that adjust it increase or decrease the basis. And especially for somebody keeping track of stock who doesn't take their dividends, your basis in your stock is going up, which means that when you sell it, it reduces the gain.
Yeah.
Now, if you say, well, Mamma Mia, I've never kept track of my basis. Well, you are going to end up paying taxes that you shouldn't have had.
I was teaching this to my tax class the other day, and they said to me, but doesn't your broker do a really good job of keeping track of your reinvested dividends and your capital gains? And I said, not necessarily. What if you sold it to another broker, gave it to another broker house? They don't do an excellent job.
Well, they do as of 2014.
Right.
The federal government laid it upon your broker to start keeping track of the basis. But what do you do about the stock that you bought in 2010 and nobody cared? And it's up to you. Now, you can say, well, what do I care? Well, the difference is you're going to pay taxes on money that you shouldn't pay taxes on. So that's what becomes very important. Now, we have, especially with stock basis, we have a little book in our office, and if you wanted to stop in at our corporate office at 2475 Niagara Falls Boulevard, we have this little basis book. And for all of you statisticians, you'll probably say, oh, this is so great. But all the rest of you are going to say, who cares? But it'll help you keep track of your basis. And it's very important because you don't have to pay taxes on your increased basis.
And the sad thing is you've already paid taxes on those dividends and capital gains, so you might as well take it and use it accordingly.
Right. I'm Esther Gulius, the tax lady, 8030930, 8030930, star 930 on a cell phone. Okay, what if you got a gift, Chris? What's the basis in a gift?
It goes back to the original purchase price of the person who bought it, plus their improvements or additional purchases.
So
for
they're
that.
adjusted basis.
They're adjusted basis,
right?
Yes. Yep.
So if you, Mom and Dad, decide to give your home to your kids or stock to your kids, you have to make sure that your kids know the adjusted basis. Because why? Why is it important?
Because when that house is sold, it goes
or
on,
the stock
or
is
the
sold.
stock is sold, it goes on the kid's return, and if they don't know the basis is zero. So they're going to pay tax on the whole
right.
thing.
So if you gave them stock that you had in a basis of $100,000 and they sell it for $200,000 and they don't know the basis, their basis is zero. They end up paying taxes on the $200,000.
Yep. It was just like that piece of land. You said it started off at $25,000 and then it went to $160,000.
Right.
Had the kid or you given the land to not known all those increases, they would have been stuck with a huge capital gain.
So here's the thing. I mean, if you're somebody that's thinking of giving away stock, you want to give stuff to your kids, you need to have this kind of a come to Jesus meeting where you're really going to sit down and say, this is my adjusted basis, so that they know, because 15 years from now, upon your death, I'm going to tell you their accountant's going to say, and what was the adjusted basis? And so now's the time when you give the gift to your children. Not only do you give them a gift of the asset, but you have to give them the gift of what the basis was.
Right.
Yep. Give them the paperwork behind the gift.
Right. Now, what if they inherit it?
Ha-ha. That's a much better situation, and you get the stepped-up basis. That means what it's worth on the date of somebody's death. Yes.
So if you're not going to tell the kids what you paid for the stock and you don't know what the adjusted basis is, then it's best to die and have them inherit it. I'm saying that tongue in cheek, but the kids would get the stepped up basis.
Correct.
So if it was worth $150 on your death and they sell it a week later, there's no capital gains for them.
That's right.
Unless some miracle happened in the stock market. All right. What if, Chris, that you have this loser stock, you paid $10,000 for it, and it's really worth maybe $1,000, and you would really like to take the tax loss. So you say to your brother, how would you like to buy my stock? And you sell it to him for $1,000. Can you take the loss?
No, I can't.
Why not?
Because he's a related party.
Aha,
So
you mean to
it's
tell me they treat relatives specially?
Yes, they do. It's that old arm's length transaction.
And you know what? I want to chime in here and say something. Say you give somebody a stock, but the parents that you gave it to, they were joint owners, and one of the mom or dad passed away. You get a half stepped up basis.
Right.
So that's
right.
something to really
That's
take
something
into
else
consideration.
Too. That's the adjusted
Right,
basis.
right.
But going back to the relative, selling your capital asset to a relative at a loss means that the seller does not get to take the loss because he sold it to a relative.
Correct.
Right?
It's
Correct.
sad.
Yep. So
if your idea of getting rid of your dog stock is to sell it to your brother, bad idea, right?
Yeah.
Yep, definitely. And then he's got to watch it when he sells it too, because there's different rules for if
upon his sale.
Yep.
Right? Okay. I'm Esther Gulius, the tax lady, 803-0930, 803-0930, star 930 on a cell phone. I know we have people holding. Want to talk about your personal residence. Now, I know a lot of people, moms and dads, I think I'm going to do is give my house to my kids. If they give the house to the kids, it goes back to what we were talking about. If you truly transfer title while you're alive, then that's a gift to the kids, and it goes all the way back to what you paid for it, plus your improvements. And if somebody passed away, there would be a half stepped up basis. But for all intents and purposes, the kids are going to pay taxes upon your death.
That's right.
But what if you did a life estate?
Well, yeah, if the title and everything wasn't changed in the kid's name, then it's an inheritance. So then they get the stepped up basis.
So a life estate, if you want to live in the house, then the kids would get a stepped up basis upon your death, and they wouldn't have to pay the taxes. So it's extremely important. And since a house is like one of the most expensive things we buy in our lifetime, many times people just willy-nilly go ahead and do something, and then the kids end up having to pay the taxes, right?
Right.
Okay. I'm Esther Gulius, the tax lady, 803-0930, 803-0930, star 930 on a cell phone. Love to hear from you. We're going to talk to Len in Lancaster. Hey, Len, how can we help you?
How are you?
Hello.
I've got a question about, I was listening about stocks and cost basis, and it's just amazing. Something so simple is now so complicated. I got a phone call. My parents gift me and my brother $10,000 in stocks every year.
Okay.
And I got a phone call from the handler of the account, and it says, your stocks were bought up by another company, and you have $12,000 coming to you.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to know the cost basis. This is what, when my ears perked up when the program was on. It's like, and unfortunately, your dad doesn't know what the cost basis is, and you're going to be paying taxes on
all of it.
Exactly.
Right.
Now, I guess my question is, so it's obviously not based. The value is not based on the day of gifting.
No, it goes on a gift, Len. It goes all the way back to the donor's cost basis. So your mom and dad are alive?
Yes.
They don't have any records?
Do they know when they purchased the stock?
Well, isn't that on record somewhere? I mean, if I could find...
Well, this is what's important is... Well, first of all, I would want to know your tax bracket. If you're in the 15% tax bracket or less, it's a good possibility that even if you paid 100%, you're not going to pay any federal taxes at all.
Okay.
Because you'd be in zero. However, you'll pay New York State. So you'd have to determine how much of the gain it's going to be. And you said, what, $12,000?
I think that's what he said was $12,000 and some small change.
Okay, so let's say worst case scenario, you end up paying New York State an extra $720, and maybe to adjust some of your other income, and you pay another $200 or $300 on New York State. So it's, let's say, $1,000. So you'd have to say, how much work do I want to do to save $1,000? Now, if it's pretty easy, if you can go through mom and dad's portfolio and you can find out what they paid for it, that would be in your best interest because you would definitely save New York State taxes.
And what about the broker that sold it to the other broker? Doesn't that old broker know how much dividends it paid throughout the year and capital gains?
I mean, was there reinvested dividends or did they take the dividends?
That I don't know, but to muddy the waters further, the one broker, I guess, lost his license and was absorbed by another broker, so records did not... Yeah.
Okay, so I guess what you have to go back and have that meeting with mom and dad and say, do you have anything that says what you paid for this? And quite frankly, if nobody can determine a basis, then you end up with a zero basis and you have to pay taxes. But if your income is modest, and I don't know if you're making $200,000 or $300,000 a year, but if
no, it's about $53,000.
All right, so you're in the 15% bracket. So on the federal return, are you on Social Security or are you still working?
I'm still working.
All right. So really, you're going to pay very little in federal taxes, and probably, like I said, about $720 on New York State taxes.
Correct.
So I would say you're looking at maybe $1,000. I guess it's not enough to jump off a cliff, but if you could, it saves you $1,000.
Right. But if they're giving you $10,000 a year in stock, you're eventually going to have a big nightmare if this is an ongoing yearly thing.
That is true.
So try to sit down, even if you can sit down with Dad and say, Dad, the stock XYZ, what year do you think you bought it?
And if they have their tax returns, if they got the old tax returns, you may be able to figure out, go back to the company and say, do you have on record when Len's mom and dad bought the stock?
Right. And Google, we go to bigcharts.com, and you can get historical quotes of stocks then, of back to 1982 and how many,
Right.
and you can backtrack that way. But,
But Chris is right. At some point in time, it's going to become a nightmare. So I guess now's the time when mom and dad are around to figure out if you can't come up with a cost basis. And if you need help, you can call us at 632-7886. We'll be very happy to sit down with mom and dad and you and see what we could do.
I'm sure you'll be hearing from me soon.
All right. Thanks, Len. Bye-bye. I'm Esther Golias, the tax lady, 8030930, 8030930. We have about 12 minutes left in the show. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back on the other side with your calls.
If I had $1 million.
If I had $1 million.
If I had $1 million, you'd probably pay a lot of taxes.
$333,000.
Right, I'm Esther Golias, the tax lady from EG Tax, and we want to help you if you have $1 million, if you got $25, whatever you got.
$25 million will help you too.
Well, I mean, whatever. We certainly want to help you because it's not just the affluent that have to worry about taxes, but sometimes it's the people that are just kind of scratching out an income that are missing some of the refundable credits too, right? All right, I wanted to also talk about, I know we have Debbie holding, 8030930, 8030930, star 930 on the cell phone. Love to hear what you have to say. Installment sales are a great way if you're selling, let's say you have a cottage, right? Mm-hmm. And you paid $50,000 for it, and it's now worth $150,000, and you say, gee, I would really like to get a little more interest because I'm getting nothing in the bank, and you decide to hold the mortgage. Well, then, that $100,000 gain you had in the cottage is spread out over the life of the mortgage, and that's called an installment sale. Yeah. So that's a great way to manage taxes.
That's right.
That's right. It delays paying the tax on the whole money. You pay it every year instead of all at once.
Right. So I think the old term is, I'm going to hold the mortgage. I'm holding the mortgage. Another thing is a like-kind exchange.
I heard you talking to a person retiring who's moving to Florida about a like-kind exchange in your office the other day.
I mean, so you want to move to Florida and you got a fourplex in Cheektowaga, you can effectively sell your fourplex in Cheektowaga, put it with an exchanger, buy yourself an investment property in Florida, take the entire gain, move it down to Florida, and nobody pays the taxes until you either go home to be with Jesus or you sell it, right?
Or you exchange it again for another one.
And that's another thing that we do, right?
Right.
The other thing is I want to talk about before I get to the phones, and I want to talk to everybody on the phone too, is estate planning. I don't know, you can give how much per year without having to do a gift tax return?
$14,000
per person per year, right?
Yep.
Before you have to do a gift tax return. Now, you really don't owe estate taxes in New York State until your estate, that means the whole kit and caboodle of everything you have on the date of your death, exceeds this year $3,125,000. Starting April the 1st, it goes to $4,187,500, and April the 1st of 2007 it goes to $5,250,000. So that means that most everybody that I would be talking to does not have an estate problem. And on the federal, it's $5,450,000. $5,430,000 in 2015 and $5,450,000 in 2016. So most people are not going to have to pay estate taxes. So, but what happens if you give more than $14,000 per person per year? Like, let's say at Christmas time you want to go nuts and give all your grandkids $20,000, and you got 5 grandkids. Then you can give the $100,000. Right?
Right.
Then you'd have to do a gift tax return, which adjusts your unified exclusion upon your death. But if your estate's going to be worth $900,000, it won't make any difference.
Right?
Right?
Right. Yep. So give it away now. I mean,
Right.
don't just, I got to do this extra form. You're not going to owe money on it.
Believe me,
and
the
it's
extra
nothing-
form is not hard to do.
Not at all.
We don't charge much to do it. But, I mean, so many times people say, I can't give more than... You can. You can, because as long as your estate's going to be under the $5 million, like, who cares? Right. I mean,
Yep.
it's true. You have
Yep.
to do the gift tax return. So the federal government's going to keep track of the money you gave. But there is no gift tax, effectively. All right, and we're going to go back to the phones. We're going to talk to Debbie. Hi, Deb. How are you? How can we help you?
I'm pretty good. I bought a house 7 years ago, and I'm tasting a loss on it. Can I collect anything from having a loss on the house?
All right, so what we said was there's 2 kinds of capital assets, personal capital assets and investment capital assets. Personal capital assets, which would be your home because you're living in it, when you sell it at a gain, the gain would be taxable. If you sell it at a loss, and I have to put a caveat there, unless you lived in it less than 2 out of 5 years, and, whatever. But if you sold it at a loss, the loss would not be deductible. So if this was just your personal residence and you sell it at a loss, it's not deductible.
Then I can deduct it.
No, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Is there any way around it or anything?
Well, the only way around it would be if you turn it into investment property. So, like, let's say you have a house that you bought and you said, I'm going to move out of it now. I'm going to turn it into rental property. And you turn it into rental property, and 3 years down the line, you sell it. Then the difference between the fair market value at the time that you converted it to rental and what you end up selling it for after your depreciation would be deductible, but the initial amount may not be deductible.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
You're
you, my
welcome.
dear. Okay, let's go to Colleen. Hi, Colleen. How can we help you?
Hi, Esther. Nice to talk to you.
Thank you.
I have inherited a house from my aunt. I haven't officially, the papers haven't been signed yet, flipping everything over in my name yet. But I have 3 sons, and I want to leave the house to them, but I want to be able to stay in it until my death.
All right, so you want to do a life estate.
Okay.
All right, so a life estate means that, you're the owner of the property taxes come to you at your, income if you have a star exemption, and then your children and they cannot get rid of you in the house. They just, because you're steering the property, because it's still, you have the right of possession, okay, as long as you're alive. And upon your death, then the kids would get a stepped-up basis.
A stepped-up, okay. All right, and I just want to say thank you to you and your crew for the great work you do. I listen to you every Saturday, and you're a wealth of information.
Oh, thank you so much, Colleen. We really, really do appreciate it. We
Sorry
try
about
hard.
that.
I know you do.
Thank you, dear.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye. That's very nice. Isn't that very nice?
Makes my day.
I'll tell you, in the world full of bad news,
Yep.
It was interesting. I was talking we were getting ready to do our tax season buy. Yes, we're going to be back on TV and driving you people crazy. But anyway, we were talking to a salesperson yesterday, and I said to him about sometimes I get tired of watching the news because it just kind of makes you depressed.
Very
all
true.
the bad news, and everybody wants to say something bad about somebody, you know.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just want to watch happy programs. I mean, sometimes I watch Everybody Loves Raymond. Because it makes me laugh. It's
And
just
he
a great
was saying
sitcom.
that he'll turn on Happy Days, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean. Yes,
I mean,
yes.
sometimes you just want to hear happy news, and that was happy news. But in the meantime, you know, you got like 7 weeks before the end of tax season. And I'm going to tell you, it is worth your while to call and have somebody take a look at your tax situation, or call us, or before you do something serious, like for instance, one thing, like let's say that you have a business car that, you know, like we have a fleet of cars at EG Tax. If I were to sell those cars outright, then I'd have to take, and after the adjusted basis, I'd have to claim the income as ordinary income because it's a 4797 1245 asset, right?
Correct.
All right. But if I trade them in, then I don't have to, even though effectively the dealer's giving me the money because I didn't have to put the money into the new car. It just adjusts the basis and I don't have to pay taxes.
That's
and
right.
you think about that, that's a big thing. That one little thing can cost a business owner a lot of money just because they don't know.
Right. And sometimes towards the end of the year, I see business owners buying big vehicles and doing the Section 179. And Chris, isn't it true it can boost you into AMT, or what is the rule if you get a Section 179 car? You have to be careful.
Well, it's got to be a 6-ton car
that
to do.
wasn't
In order to do the order to do the
Yeah.
But they also
25,000.
look at it for you know, if you buy a BMW, they're not going to let you use the
Ordinary and
BMW price.
necessary.
They're going
Right,
to say
because
you could have bought a
it's
Kia.
listed property.
Yep.
Right, because there are you can only write off a certain amount for listed property, of which a car is a listed
That's right.
property. But if you're a business owner, I'm going to tell you, when you take a look at your income taxes you pay and your FICA and the state of New York, probably you're paying 40 to 50% on your bottom line. And so you really want to take a look at opening up a pension plan, doing tax planning, because something like buying a copy machine on December the 26th for $10,000, if you needed one, would save you like $4,000 or $5,000 in taxes. And you say, gee, I can borrow the money, get the copy machine, and save $5,000. Making your estimate to New York State on before December 31st, if you're in a higher tax bracket, can save you. If it was $10,000, you save $4,000 in taxes. To me, that's a lot of money.
That's tax planning. That's
And
being
that's
smart.
part of what we do at EG Tax. And we want to help you. And if during the week you got a question, call us at 632-7886. Our website is egtax.com. I mean, we want to help you. Auntie Esther and the crew. And until next Saturday, I'm Esther Goulias from EG Tax with Chris Fabian and Tiffany Fabian. Have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.